Got list growth on your goal list for the new year? Let's talk about some practical strategies to help you build a warm, healthy list in 2026.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9 to 5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. We're talking about list growth in this episode, and I want to offer some different types of strategies other than just create a freebie and share it. There's a lot of different ways to grow your list, and especially if you have list growth on your goal list for 2026 of something that you want to focus on, I want you to think outside the box a little bit. And I would even be curious if there's things I talk about this episode that like you have a different idea that I didn't talk about, essentially. Hop in the DMs at The Relevant Collective and share it with me. I'd love to know what unique and outside the box strategies you're using to grow your list. But I'm going to share some that I've used, some that my clients have used, or that I've just seen people in general use to grow their list. And also talk about how list growth might be a bit different in 2026, or just really this time right now. Like this isn't, 2020 anymore. 2019 is essentially what I mean. As it's getting harder to get people onto your list, like what kind of strategies and expectations you can set for yourself in this new world of email marketing. So let's first start by talking about things that you'll want to have in place as you go into the new year thinking about list growth, because it's all fine and dandy to grow your list, but if you don't have these essentials in place, then you might just have a list that remains stagnant, remains cold, and doesn't perform like you want it to. So one of the first things is a welcome sequence. I've talked about this a ton in different episodes, but I have an episode specifically, episode 52, talking about why you need a welcome sequence. But really, this is your not so secret weapon to an engaged and warm list. When you have a welcome sequence, what you're essentially doing is taking someone who's come onto your list and who's already shown interest by signing up to your email list in whatever format that might be. And again, we'll talk about some of those formats in a minute. They're showing interest and they're saying, hey, you've piqued my interest. You've made me curious. I want to know more. And so we see in the stats from welcome sequences that people typically are warmer and more engaged when they first enter into our list. And so we need to, I hate using the word take advantage, but that's like the best phrase I can use in this instance, but like take advantage of that opportunity where they are already warm and say, okay, how can I make you piping hot? How can I get you more engaged, even warmer? So that whenever you do end up just in my regular list where I'm sending out weekly emails or whatever that looks like for you, it's easier to sell to you, it's easier to connect with you, it's easier to convert you, all those types of things that we obviously want from our email list. Another thing to do is make sure that you've cleaned your list before you really do take the time to bring a bunch of people on. Do a little list cleaning. I talk in episode 19 about like what to do if you've ghosted. I actually think that was a co-hosted episode with Melanie and I. But even if you haven't ghosted your list, there's still some good strategies in there on like basically re-engaging and reviving a list that's a little cold slash maybe a little bit dead. So if they haven't engaged in 90 days or more, you definitely want to either give them the boot or send them through a re-engagement sequence. I write re-engagement sequences for clients. That's something that I can help you with if you need help with it. But that doesn't have to be like huge. It can be literally an email or two where you're just saying, hey, I see that you haven't really engaged. Do you want to even be here anymore? So definitely check out episode 19 if you want some more tips on that, or you can head to the show notes and check out my services page for my re-engagement packages. Okay, another thing is to evaluate your lead magnets. So before you are, again, thinking about growing, doing a lot of growth, a lot of times we tend to turn to our lead magnets for that. But is there any way that you can revive or kind of zhuzh up some that maybe you've had around for a while? I know I've had some lead magnets for a while that I'm kind of looking to retire because I've been using them for like 2+ years and it's just time to do something a bit different. I really want to go more in depth with them. I want something that fits more of like my brand and my packages now. So look at the ones that may no longer be a fit or align with your business, and how can you, again, either change them to make them better or just retire them. If you're someone in the digital seller space, especially if you're a TPT seller. I know those people typically tend to have a lot of different lead magnets, and there's nothing wrong with that inherently. But if we have like 50, lead magnets, do we really need to have all 50 of those? Or there's some of them that maybe aren't bringing in the best fit people? For instance, maybe you have like a seasonal lead magnet that like you only have a few seasonal products, right? Like maybe those aren't your best sellers. So we can retire that and focus on the ones that are leading people to your best sellers. The last thing I highly recommend you have in place before you do a lot of list building, put a lot of effort behind that, is to have a strategy for how you're going to be consistently sending emails. So I do 30-day and 90-day strategy sessions with different clients. And we plan out all of their emails during that time period, whether they're sending biweekly emails, several emails a month, or a week rather, also a month. We plan all those out, and that's a really good game plan to have because the last thing you want is to spend a ton of time bringing people onto your list and then you ghost them. So then in the end, you still have a cold list that isn't engaging, isn't converting. That's obviously not what we want. So if you're someone who's struggled in the past with consistency and continually showing up on your email list, highly recommend sitting down, taking some time to, plan out, even if it's just 30 days for right now, what those emails are going to look like. And if you need help with that, check out in the show notes the link to my strategy sessions. Okay, let's now talk about list growth strategies. How are you actually going to spend your time to grow your list in 2026 or whenever you're listening to this? So, like I said, list growth doesn't have to just be freebies, lead magnets, opt-ins. Obviously, that is a great, way to grow your list, and I'll talk about that. But I also want to offer you some different types of strategies that maybe you haven't tried before, or that you might have just forgotten about because again, there are so many different ways to do it. I know I often forget, like, oh, yeah, I could do XYZ thing. So I have probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 ideas sitting in front of me. I'm going to run through those for you and hopefully it sparks some ideas. So the first one is bundles. In episode 64, I talk about using bundles to grow your list. So if you're interested in using bundles, I highly recommend listening to that episode because I share some things that I think really work when you're doing bundles. Like there's a really good way to do it. And then there's a not so good way to do it. But here's a brief recap. And again, check out episode 64 if you want more details. But when you're doing bundles, there's a couple things you want to do. Make sure that the bundle you're doing really aligns with your audience. For example, you could, of course, I could join a bundle, right, that was like just business owners. And it could be like coaches and service providers and digital sellers and course creators and all these different types of people. It could be in-person businesses. That's really broad, though. The type of people I typically work with are digital sellers and course creators. So I'm probably going to want a bundle that's specific to those types of people. Or even more specific, I might choose a bundle that's specific to people who want copywriting help or email marketing help. So I know that people are coming onto my list are really my ideal audience, or at least most of them are. Another thing I highly recommend doing for bundles is, again, going back to the welcome sequence, having a specific welcome sequence for that bundle. That doesn't mean you have to rewrite a whole welcome sequence, but what you might do is just tweak it a little bit, the sequence that you have, so that it's talking specifically to those people coming from that bundle, because they're likely signing up for a lot of things at one time. And so you don't want to get lost and forgotten in the chaos that their inbox is becoming. So that's again kind of the downside of bundles is that I don't think it always brings on the warmest people because they are likely signing up for a lot at once. But it is a great way to grow your list really quickly. And while you may bring on, let's say, 100 or 500 people at once, maybe not all of them will stay really warm and engaged, but a good portion of them might if you do the bundle really well. Another thing you can do to grow your list is collaborations. And we did an episode, Melanie and I, we talked to a guest for this one in episode 17 about collaborating. And this episode doesn't just talk about list growth, but that was one of the things that we focused on. And so collaborations can look a lot of different ways. And some of the ideas I even share we'll share more on in a second, are technically collaborations, but this could be like summits. Again, this could be bundles. This could be jumping into someone's membership. This could be a freebie swap. Like there's so many different ways to do collaborations. But whenever you're choosing a collaboration, again, I would choose someone whose audience is very similar to yours. And I would even don't be afraid to do a collaboration that you're not being exposed to hundreds of people at once. Even if it's you hopping into someone's membership and you're talking to 20 people in there, you're probably going to end up with a lot more warm people on your list, 20 really warm people versus 500 people coming from a bundle who may not actually end up being, warm, engaged subscribers. So that's just something to think about. That's a really good episode 17, to refer to if you're kind of interested in adding more collaborations in 2026. Okay, so now I'm going to get into some more specific things. So summits, again, this could technically be considered a collaboration, but summits are really great. Exposure. I personally haven't seen this as like always the best list growth strategy because um, you're not automatically getting them on your email list just because you're in the summit. Typically, they have to go and watch your segment and then be interested in signing up for whatever freebie you have. And so the conversion from, signing up to the summit to them actually ending up on your list is a lot smaller. But again, those people who do sign up probably likely to be very warm and engaged subscribers because they went through a lot of different steps to get onto your email list. Another way to grow your list is to share your email topics. So this is one I'm not always that great at doing, but I've heard so many people having really good success with this. And I definitely think it's something I want to put more effort behind in 2026. But essentially, it's as simple as going on to your Instagram stories for that day and saying, hey, I have a newsletter coming out tomorrow or later today about XYZ topic. I'm talking about XYZ. I get a lot of questions about this, or I'm going to be sharing a video or freebie that's exclusive to my email list in my next newsletter that goes out. Here's the link to sign up. It's essentially just your general newsletter sign up, like form, but you actually want to give people a reason to sign up for it. Just sticking that on your website and saying, like, sign up for my newsletter. It's probably not going to get that many conversions, not that many people on your list. But if you're actually sharing what kind of emails they can expect from signing up for your newsletter, especially like the next email coming out, you may get more people converting to that newsletter sign up. So, of course, that does involve you, require you rather, to again have a plan for your email topics and to make sure that there's something that your audience is really interested in. But if you are really taking in their feedback and learning from them and creating newsletters that they're really going to like, you'll probably see a good amount of conversion with that. Okay, and then there's, of course, the classic lead magnet or opt-in to grow your list. However, what I'm going to put here as I don't know if caveat's the right word, but we'll use that for 2026 and beyond, is think beyond the PDF. Yes, PDF lead magnets still do work, again, especially if it's something that your audience really wants. So you do need to know your audience. But I recommend getting creative with your opt-ins and your lead magnets. I really feel that it's quality over quantity. I would rather my clients have 3, 2 really, really good opt-ins that convert really well because they've spent time making sure that it's something their audience really wants and putting a lot of thought into it, over having 50 or even 20 lead magnets that don't really see a lot of conversion and they're having to work really hard to get people to sign up for their list because it's just not something that their audience is interested in. So when I think quality, think again, what are the challenges people have, the objections that they're sharing? What are the problems they're facing? What are the transformations that they want? And how can your opt in help them? And you could even think like small opt ins. You do not need to create a whole ebook, right, to get someone onto your list. But if you can solve one problem for them, maybe you can solve, for example, if someone says, I really struggle with creating subject lines, I really struggle with writing in my own voice. How could I create a really simple opt-in that's like a 60-second subject line fix or 3 steps to adding more voice to your copy? Those really simple opt-ins can actually see better results because I'm sharing in that title what the transformation is, the thing that I'm going to help them with, and I'm addressing the challenge that they have. And most people are going to be happy to get an opt-in that they can quickly use and like move on from, right? Than having to sit down and like read a whole ebook or listen to a 60-minute training. Like give them a quick win. Another strategy for growing your list is a freebie swap. I definitely don't think this is something enough people utilize, but again, when done really well, can be a great, list building driver in your business. So find someone who has a complementary audience and do a swap. So you share the freebie to your list, they share your freebie to their list, and hopefully you get some signups from that. Again, you're going to probably see more warm people coming onto your list because it's not like mass amount of people signing up, like signing up for a ton of things at once, right? It's not like they're sending an email to their list and they're like, here's 50 freebies that you could grab. And they're just like grabbing a ton of them at one time. And so their inbox is flooded. It's very specific to just you, your business, your freebie, whatever you're selling kind of thing. And so, yeah, you're likely to see some more warm people from that. Another list growth strategy is a freebie swap. And I definitely think this is very underutilized. I don't see a lot of people use it. I've only done it a couple times. But again, like many of these strategies, when done really well, can be a great list builder. So with the freebie swap, I would recommend reaching out to someone who has a very complementary audience as you. So again, I would want to reach out to someone who works with small business owners, whether they're digital sellers or course creators, and they're probably at least like a year plus or so into business. They're not like brand new to business. They do understand the importance of like an email list, and it doesn't really matter if their email list is brand new or if their email list is 10 years old, just someone who at least knows the value of email. Those are like my ideal people. So I'd want to reach out and say to someone, hey, here's what I'm interested in sharing with your audience. Here are the people that I'm kind of looking to have on my list. Do you think this fits well with you? I would start the conversation that way. And then of course it's a swap. So you also want to say, hey, here's what kind of people I have on my list. Here's what kind of things they're typically interested in. What freebie do you think would fit really well that I could also share with my audience? And then you swap. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Typically, what I've done in the past is I offer like I write the email for them and they write the email for me. So I would write the email for my list based on their freebie. And then they write the email for their list based on their freebie, just so it kind of stays like in our voice and our natural like way of writing. It doesn't sound like weird popping up in in the person's inbox and they're like, this doesn't sound like Branda because someone else wrote my email. But you definitely could do it the other way if that works better for you, where like they write the email that they want you to send to your list, if that makes sense. Okay, another list growth strategy is doing a workshop or a challenge, aka hosting something. So, whenever you are the host of a bundle, a workshop, a challenge, a collaboration, you're obviously going to grow your list a lot quicker because you're like the primary person driving this. So, typically, for example, like with a bundle, what people have to do is sign up for the bundle and then they get access to a page where they can sign up for the individual resources. So, the person who's hosting that bundle is getting a lot more traffic. They're getting a lot more people on their list. I think doing like the host of a bundle, again, you're probably going to see more people cold on your list because you may get 1,000 people signing up, which sounds great at first, but they may not all be interested in actually what you're selling. However, with a workshop or a challenge, when you're doing some sort of specific thing that you're focusing on. So again, I've done email challenges in the past where I help people with planning their emails. And so I know the people who are coming into that challenge are definitely a fit for my email list, for my services, because that's something that I help people do is grow their list in with email marketing, versus just like a general business bundle, right? Another strategy is sharing in a membership or group. And I talked about this with collaborations, but is there someone who has a Facebook group or a membership or a course that you can go in and share something with that group and then offer them some sort of incentive for getting on your list, whether that be signing up for, again, some sort of opt-in. Maybe they can sign up for your list to get access to an audit or like some sort of free, like 15-minute coaching or something like that. Again, think outside the box here with how you can get them onto your list, because just showing up in a group or membership isn't automatically mean that they're going to become a subscriber. But hopefully, whatever you're talking about and sharing interests them enough that they do want to join whatever incentive that you offer and get onto your list. Adding your opt-ins to your content and talking about your opt-ins in your content is another list growth strategy that is way, way underutilized. So making sure that the blog post that you post online, the podcast that you share, and your YouTube videos or whatever form of long form content that you have, social media, while that's not long form content, is another place that you can do this. But how can you actually share your opt-ins or ways that they can get on your list in those pieces of content? So for example, maybe in a blog post, you just have like an inline form kind of pasted halfway through to incentivize people to get onto your list. Maybe you actually share like a freebie inside that blog that fits well with whatever you're talking about. Maybe your topic is, I don't know, 10 strategies for list growth, right? And then I have a freebie that gives them extra information on those things and they can sign up for that. Maybe I have a podcast episode about subject lines. And then I have a freebie where they can go and get additional information on like a subject line fix. So connecting your opt-ins and your content together is also a really good way to grow your list. And I say it's very underutilized because I write a lot of blogs for clients, and I typically find that a lot of them don't add those things in to their blogs inherently. And so it's just something to think about whenever you're planning your content. Okay, the last strategy that I'll share is utilizing mini chat like features. And I say mini chat like because mini chat isn't the only platform that does this now, but essentially using the feature where someone can comment a word and they get access to a link, right? So you've all seen it before. I'm hoping at this point, if you've used Instagram or any sort of social media ever, where someone will be like, comment inbox, and I will send you the link to my, you know, course, to my opt-in, to my whatever, my recipe. I do it a lot with recipes, I feel like, on Instagram. Like I don't post them, but I will comment a lot to get recipes to things. So, anyways, mini chat is a great just list growth strategy because it just gives people really quick access to your opt in versus saying, go to my link in bio. So, if it's not something that you haven't tried yet in your business, that might be something that you consider adding in 2026 to make your list growth a lot easier for not just you, but for the people who are consuming your content. All right, to wrap this episode up, I want to give you my two best tips for list growth. That if you have to walk away with anything from this episode, these are the two things I hope that you walk away with. So, first is get ultra specific with your lead magnets. Lead magnets, I would say, for a lot of people, are still the main way that they're looking to grow their list. And so, when you're looking at creating new lead magnets in 2026 and beyond, make sure they are really actionable and it's something that people really want help with. So I gave an example earlier of like the 60-second subject line fix, or maybe you have like tomorrow's lessons planned. If you download this freebie, you're going to have your lessons like printable for the next day, even if they don't use them the next day. Like that's the idea, right? If like I have your lessons for whatever day ready to go, just print it. The idea again here is that it's something that people can use really quickly. It's something that doesn't take them a lot of time to consume. And because that transformation or that problem solving is right in the title of your lead magnet, it does make it a lot more interesting to grab. I have grabbed like very simple lead magnets from people, really simple opt-ins that are just like a calculator for something or an email template that I need. And I'm like, great, this is awesome. Like I've done email templates for like sending, like this is the email you can send to like pitch this, right? For like a podcast, or this is the email you can send to pitch this to a client. And I've grabbed those before. And the opt-in is not large, but it's a problem that I have and something that I need help with. And so it makes my life easier to go and just download that rather than spending the time doing it myself. So that's something to think about as you go into 2026. Get ultra specific. How could you make your existing lead magnets even more specific? My second tip is to just go all in. This is something I also struggle with and that I'm also working on 2026. So we're going to be doing it together. But what I see so often is that like people just share a freebie really quick in their story and then they don't talk about it again for like a month or even a quarter or even months down the road. Or they'll like be a part of a summit and they'll say like, oh yeah, here's the summit. They talk about it once and then they're like, wow, I didn't like not a lot of people signed up for the summit or not a lot of people signed up for my workshop. I didn't get a lot of conversion to my email list with it. We have to talk about things more than once. We have to talk about them many, many times to the point of probably feeling really annoying. But that's just what we have to do, especially in 2026, where there's so much noise and where conversions do take a lot more touch points. So when I say go all in, I mean, if you decide to create a new lead magnet and you're like, I'm going to get ultra specific with this, I'm going to really put an effort behind it. Don't just talk about it once. Spend like a whole month talking about it over and over and over again. That doesn't mean you have to talk about it every single day, but you need to talk about it several times a week. You need to share a different piece of content with it. You should probably make a blog post where you use that freebie and talk about it inside that blog and send an email list, not an email list, send an email where you talk about that freebie and maybe do a freebie swap with someone where you share that freebie and get on your stories and talk about it and get on threads and talk about it just several different places, several different times. It's not enough to just share it once or twice anymore and just hope for results. We have to do it over and over again. So when I say go all in, like actually plan out a time period where you're going to be sharing that freebie, sharing that collaboration, sharing that whatever it might be that you're doing to grow your list. Okay, so a quick recap of what we have talked about in this episode. Before you begin, you want to make sure that you have a welcome sequence in place, you've cleaned your list, you evaluated your lead magnets, and that you have a plan to show up consistently in your inbox. And then once you've done those things, you can dig into some list growth strategies. And there's a ton of different ones, from collaborations to bundles, workshops, freebie swaps, and really specific opt-ins. And the thing I would love for you to walk away with is that you need to get ultra specific with your lead magnets if you want them to be impactful and drive a lot of people to your list in 2026 and to go all in. So don't sit here and think, oh my gosh, I need to utilize all of these different strategies. Pick one and really go all in for a month or even a quarter where you focus on promoting that new freebie that you created, that workshop that you have, whatever it might be that you're doing to get people onto your list, because it's not enough anymore to just talk about it once or twice and hope for list growth. If you want help with your email list, whether that be growing your list in 2026, creating a strategic plan for your emails, or you just want to ask some questions about email marketing, I have strategy sessions that you can grab. I will put a link down in the show notes. You can get a 30-minute or a 60-minute strategy session, just depends on your needs. So I hope to see you on Zoom. Thanks so much for joining the conversation today. If you want to learn more about how we can work together on email marketing, launch copy, or content planning, head to therelevantcollective.com. I'll meet you back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.